Welcome to another episode of Victory Loves Company. I am James Lynch, joined by Jim West. New time slot, Jim. How you liking the afternoons here?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of like it. It's a little different feel, kind of at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Not so early. I think our guests will be much more
Very much appreciate it. Not everyone's a morning person like you and me. And I don't know if people have noticed, no white AirPod headphones. So the audio is coming in crystal clear today, Jim. It only took us a bunch of episodes, 17 episodes.
Apparently these are not good.
They're killer. So. Yeah. Here's a lesson for everyone out there. Don't use these on StreamYard because they don't go so well. But how you been, man? How's your day? I know you had your day job and then probably training tonight, right?
Yeah, actually Tuesdays is Muay Thai and wrestling. So Jake, our Muay Thai coach, is here, and then our wrestling coach, Justin Durham. So today, no, I don't teach anything today. Tomorrow I'll be back at it, and Thursday, and then privates on Friday, and back to the weekend.
Sounds exciting. Want to remind everyone, if you're watching this, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We got a great guest here today. Colbey Northcutt's going to be joining us here just momentarily. One championship standout, obviously, great, lineage in terms of her family and some of the accomplishments they've made. So we're really excited to bring her on. But before we get into this, Jim, I got to ask how your weekend was. We had the fights on Saturday, crazy knockout in the main event. Yuri Prohaska looks legit, man. I think he's a title challenger at this point.
Well, I don't think anyone can deny that at this point. I think, obviously, you have the 205, the light heavyweight, in September, right?
Yeah.
Jan and Glover in September. So he's probably going to get the next shot unless he chooses to, want to fight, quickly sometime this summer before September. So I don't see anyone else that's going to jump his place, right? I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting.
Well, there's Alexander Rakic, but he didn't have as impressive as a win as Yuri did. I mean, that was one of the best light heavyweight fights. I know it ended in the second round, but leading up to that was one of the best fights I've ever seen. It was fantastic. And here's the thing, and we'll get into this later, I'm sure, with Colbey, but I don't think Dominic Reyes looked bad in that fight. He tried everything he could in that fight.
Listen, he got caught with a spinning back elbow.
I know.
What do you say?
I know the odds of that happening. It's like getting struck by lightning, right? Landing the way it did and everything.
It was a great fight. They were going at it. I mean, all aspects. I wish I would have seen Reyes mixing his wrestling a little bit more. He did it, initially in that first round, but he didn't kind of stay up with it. I think that would have and could have changed the tide of that fight, the dynamic of it. But live and learn, I guess.
By the way, before we bring in Colbey, I noticed the photo of Ariel on your wall there with Aspen Ladd. I'm assuming her debut on the MMA Hour. When's my plaque getting up with my interview with Aspen? I'm just wondering.
We need a picture of it.
Yes, exactly. I'll send you a screenshot next time we do an interview. But that gives a good segue to our next guest. Really happy to welcome her on here. Colbey Northcutt, one of the standouts in one championship. We're so happy to have her on here on the program. I haven't spoken to her in a couple of years. Colbey, how are you? Thanks so much for joining us.
I'm doing great. Thanks. And it has been a while since I've spoken to you.
I'm glad you remember. It was before your LFA debut. That was a couple of years ago.
You are correct. That's right.
There you go. Great to have you here, Colbey. Thanks for doing this. I know a lot easier doing it in the evening. We're all in Pacific time here, so trying to get you out of bed at 7 a.m, probably a little bit more difficult.
Amanda was trying to get me to do 7 a.m. Like, oh my gosh, I don't get up that early, until it's for training, and so to get up even extra early for that, I'm much happier with the 5 o'clock in the evening slot.
I think we all are. That 7 a.m. I mean, I guess it served a purpose to an extent, but boy, it's a lot different.
It was just training us for this moment, just trying to make sure we're able to, hack out the early morning. So the evenings should be a breeze. But Colbey, great having you on here. It's been awesome to watch your career and you going over to one championship. Like I kind of always do with our guests. I know you were aware of Jim, like we sort of talked about this before we got on the show. But when did Jim sort of come on your radar as a coach? Because you're based in California. I know it's very big, but obviously Jim runs a great ship over there at MMA Gold.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things to where you never really, I don't know if we've ever actually met in person, but you always kind of hear of different coaches and different people at different gyms, just kind of through the grapevine. So it's been a while, but I've never actually met you in person. So hi, nice to meet you, Jim.
Nice to meet you, Colbey.
Would love to get some training in, sometime. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, but us being business partners with Faber and everything, the way we do MMA Gold, and so anytime you guys are close. So anytime you want to come up and spar with the ladies.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm always looking for more women to train with. Faber's fantastic. This was my first time for this fight, getting actually to go train up there with him for this fight up at Alpha Male, and that was an awesome experience. So I can't say enough good things.
Let's get right into it. Your last fight, what a performance that was. First round armbar. You don't get paid by the hour. How happy were you to just, I know you hadn't fought in a while, to go out there and put on that type of performance in the one championship cage?
Super happy. I mean, armbar, I couldn't have asked for a better submission. I feel like an armbar was awesome. There was a lot that kind of went into that fight from my debut to that last one. It was like a year and a half kind of time span. I was supposed to fight in March of 2020. Then COVID kind of came around and just threw a big old monkey wrench into all of our plans, right? So I wasn't planning on taking a year and a half off. But that also meant I got a lot of time to train and focus on getting better and just drilling and making me a better athlete. And I think that that's what I did. So I'm grateful for the layoff. Everything works out the way it's supposed to. And I feel like everybody's always going to look at me as a striker. Naturally, you look at my family and, my husband and everything like that in my background. So it was nice to actually get a submission.
Yeah,
and
but that was a good
submissions. Thank you.
That was really nice. I mean, because you're talking about some decent transitions there. Like you went
Thank
from
you.
triangle to armbar, and
I appreciate
there were
that.
some good little scrambles in there. Like that was coming. Being a jiu-jitsu guy myself, like that was like, I was like, oh, this is very nice.
Thank you. I appreciate that it was an armbar over, all my past submissions have been guillotines of all things. So, I feel like anybody can just go and choke somebody out and not really know a lot of technique to do it. But an armbar felt like displayed a little bit of skill. So I was proud of myself for that. Even though it was so fast, I was a little bit disappointed with how I started off things because, oh my gosh, the whole atmosphere and fighting during COVID and being in that kind of position with everything. I feel like my mind, I wasn't like mentally like ready when they said go. And you could see that I went straight backwards and straight to the cage. And that was a big old mistake. I mean, I didn't even get to throw a single kick.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit disappointed with how that happened. And then when I got to the cage, it was kind of like a switch went on. It's like, okay, you need to work out of these positions. You need to go. And I was able to kind of think and be patient and work my way out of that. But, an armbar, I'm happy with the finish and happy it was the first round.
That's great. And I know you've done some cross training over with, Juan Archuleta and TJ Dillashaw, and I know your husband as well does too. What was sort of the link there? I imagine, Raymond being, knowing them. How did you end up training there? I was curious.
That's a great question. So I'm here in Orange County and training lab is here in Orange County as well. So super local.
I grew up in Chino Hills, Colby.
Did you really?
Chino Hills, yep.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love it here. It's fantastic. Training lab is, it's taken me a long time to kind of figure out the right home for where I wanted to be for my training. I got very, very blessed to find the training lab here in this area. It's actually my husband Raymond found Coach Cal through a mutual friend. So when he found Coach Cal through a mutual friend, for strength and conditioning purposes, he introduced us to the training lab, which then in turn we found Mark Munoz, Juan, and TJ and all them. And we're like, oh, wow. So it's not only just strength and conditioning. They have a whole MMA gym that they're building up, tons of fighters. So, the way we stumbled across it was kind of just, we weren't even really looking for an MMA gym. We were looking for a strength and conditioning coach. And that's how we kind of found it. And then obviously the whole link through alpha males because of my brother. So it is funny because we get asked all the time, like, how is it, you're up training with TJ and then, your brother's an alpha male and how is it with both? It's like, you know what, let's be the peacemakers.
Yeah, exactly.
Keepers between everybody. It's a really interesting though, going back and forth. And Juan is, I cannot say enough great things about Juan. Obviously, he's fighting on Friday, defending
Sergio Pettis, big fight. I can't wait for that.
That's a huge fight. I'm really looking forward to it. That'll be a great fight. And I'm happy that Juan is getting the recognition that he deserves. He deserves that belt. He's a champ for a reason. So I think he's going to stay the champ for a long time too in Bellator.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I followed Juan's career for a while, and he was sort of known as the belt collector on the regional scene, right? He would have all these belts and different, and here's the thing, in different weight classes, he would win at like 145, 155, and he would, sort of work his way up. I don't know why he was never on the UFC's radar, but Bellator's, benefiting from that, and you're seeing the progression he's made, and he's had some, just tough opponents. I remember him fighting Pitbull. I was at that fight. It was a very close. He's one of the few guys that's actually gone the distance with Pitbull. So to see him get a marquee matchup like Sergio Pettis, I think it's going to be the start of his reign as bantamweight champion in Bellator. Jim, you're going to say something. I could sense it on the other end here.
I was just going to comment on you said something interesting there. Wonder why, because I remember Juan being up in the region too, and I remember some of my guys there were times where we were matched up with them, and then the fights would get kibosh for whatever reason. But I think one of the biggest things is that you brought up the fact that you never wonder why he was never in the UFC. I think with the UFC, just from now kind of being in that world for some time now, it's such a timing thing with them. It's not like, Bellator where they're really actively really pursuing younger talent and different types of things. I'm not saying the UFC doesn't do that, but it just seems like the UFC is so much a timing thing. You know what I mean? It's not like a proactive, like we really want to go after this guy and sign them young and try to build them. It's like, we need you right now. And it's just, I don't know. It just seems different. I
agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll tell you a story. I don't know if you guys know this. This is someone who fights for one championship as well. Bibiano Fernandez, who lives about 30 minutes away from me here in Vancouver. He was supposed to fight in the UFC years ago on that UFC Calgary card, which ended up being a disaster. It's actually funny we're talking about Alpha Male because Uriah Faber was supposed to be, or it did end up being on that card, if you remember. And the UFC basically said, look, we got this opportunity for you. You can fight. And they kind of pressured him into it. And Bibi said, no, you know what? I'm not going to be rushed into this thing. Like, I got a family. I got to think financially. So what does he do? He goes to one championship, and he's one of their biggest stars in terms of what he's been doing as a title challenger. And it's, it's funny, like Jim mentions, like he could have gone the UFC route, or he could have, carved out a really impressive career internationally. And he's, I mean, you've seen the shows. I mean, they're selling out stadiums with him fighting. And I don't know if he would have got the same recognition. Right.
Colby, I have to ask you a question because I don't know the next time I'm going to.
Well, that's kind of the point of doing the show here, Jim. You're supposed to ask questions.
I got about one's weight. Their weight guidelines. How does that work? I've always been very intrigued, and I understand bits and pieces of it, but how does that work?
It's actually super simple. And as a fighter like myself who doesn't cut weight at all, I actually really love the process. So their whole mentality is, let's save the fighters from depleting themselves, that last 10 pounds of water, 10, 15 pounds of water, and let's get them to fight at their natural weight. That being said, so I'll just use myself for an example. I am a one championship flyweight. So the 125-pound division, what they do is they say, hey, you do not need to cut that last 10 pounds of water. We will let you weigh in at 135, but you have to be hydrated. And to do that, they weight check you multiple times throughout the week, multiple hydration tests throughout the week to make sure that you do not cut the weight. And as soon as you're done fighting in the cage, they weigh you immediately off the cage, like as soon as you step off, to make sure that you're not cheating the system somehow and ballooning back up. I think their thought process is really great because they're looking out for obviously the fighter's health. You can get knocked out a lot easier if you cut all the weight. And it makes the fights a lot more exciting too. You have a lot more energy you get to put out there, and you're fighting people that are your natural size, and you don't feel like you're having to give up a whole lot. Everybody wants to have the biggest advantage, right? And you want to cut as much weight as possible, but they basically prevent you from doing that for your own health.
I think it's beautiful the way they do it. I think it's amazing.
To me, it's interesting because you could make the weight but fail the hydration. And so let's say you fight on a Friday, they make you weigh in and have your first hydration test on a Wednesday. You have to pass it. You have another one on Thursday. You have to pass it. If you fail one of those two, they make you weigh in again and do another hydration test again on fight day. And you have to pass 2 of the 3, so to speak, to be able to fight. So you can make the weight and fail the hydration and they won't let you fight. But if you're hydrated and you miss weight by a couple pounds, they'll say, oh, no, that's okay. You can give up some of your purse. So to them, the hydration is the most important thing.
I love it. I love it. It's so forward thinking, right? Like, that weight cutting is so archaic, and I can't stand it when media makes this like this whole big rigmarole over a freaking weigh-in day. It's who cares about the weigh-in day? Who gives a shit? Like, we
Right.
care about
Yeah.
the fight, right?
And
Like, I don't
what's
know.
crazy too is saunas, the use of saunas, sauna suits, all that stuff is completely illegal. So if you get caught with any
Interesting. I didn't
kind
know
of
that.
plastics, if you get caught, it's in the rules and all the stuff that they send out to all the fighters, that if you get caught with it, you'll be basically, you can't fight. So it's really interesting too, fighting over there with COVID, because with all the restrictions, you're basically a prisoner in your hotel room. The whole dynamic was totally just like, it was, I mean, fighting during COVID for any promotion is going to be weird with the new protocols and stuff, but you know, you're locked in your hotel room. You cannot leave. You can book 2 training sessions a day. They are timed for 45 minutes apiece. You have to be accompanied by 1 championship staff to and from your hotel room. You have security in the hallway, so you can't leave. And then you're monitored during your training session. So they'll watch you and stay outside your door, or they'll be in the gym with you, wherever it is, to kind of make sure you're not leaving. But I do think that it's also to make sure that fighters aren't really cutting either.
Yeah.
So
it's
I mean,
crazy. It's just crazy. You know, it's like the fight. Like, why am I fighting? It's like you have 2 fights. You have 2 fights. Oh, fuck. And that the hardest part is the weight, right? The making the weight.
You're exactly right. Exactly right. So they kind of take that whole thing away, which I love. And so it helps you really focus on the fight, and then not the weight cut part, which is great.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jim. I think this is something we've talked about, but I don't know why USADA doesn't check the weight, you know, while they're doing the testing, just to make sure, hey, if you're over like, a certain amount, they could say, oh, hold on a second here. Like, you got a lot of weight to cut.
So when you, for the UFC, and I don't, maybe you know or don't know, so stop me if I do, but if you do. So when you show up for fight week for the UFC, the first thing you do when you get to the host hotel is they do weigh you in. They look to see what your weight is. In theory, they like to see you within 10% of your weight, right? So, but that's as far as it really goes, right? Because some guys will come in and legitimately they're 25 pounds overweight, right? Because they're going to plan on just trying to drain themselves.
Right.
So that's about the only thing that they do. And then before you, on Friday of weigh-in day, you have to go and check on the hotel scale, which is not an official scale, but it's similar to the one that you would weigh in on Friday. Yeah. And to see if you're on weight. And then, but that's it. There's no, no one standing there going, hey, well, wait a minute, you're above, the 8% threshold or 5, whatever that is.
What would happen? So they weigh you right when you get there. They do a couple checks throughout the week, and then the official weigh-ins are the day before and then 2 days before. So I don't know what would happen if you are 10, 15 pounds above, your fight weight. I don't know what they would do. But to them, the hydration is the most important thing. They figure, okay, if I miss weight by a pound or 2, but I'm fully hydrated, then I could cut that pound or 2 if I really needed to. And they could give you a little bit of leeway. But the whole thing is really interesting. I know that my last fight with my debut, I obviously had no idea what to expect.
Sure.
But getting to experience it now, I appreciate it a whole lot more, and I understand why they're doing it.
What's it been like being in one championship and having this sort of international audience that you normally wouldn't get? I think with the UFC, I mean, the UFC is more, I would say, catered to more North American fans, but, overseas getting, and obviously you didn't fight with fans, but have you noticed that on social media where you're seeing a lot of, international fans reach out and say, hey, we can't wait to watch you fight, things like that? Have you noticed that?
Yeah. And not to like bash Americans, but
well, I'm Canadian, so you're
so mean. You're so mean over here. The fans over there and just the Asian culture, they are so nice and respectful and humble. And whether you win or you lose, they love that you're putting it all on the line. And, if you go and get knocked out or if you go and lose, they will cheer for the person that lost, that just stood up, because they they value that hard work and that dedication. The fans over there are amazing. Getting to experience it, my first fight over there, was something that I can't really put into words. It was so awesome. And then obviously my last one, there was nobody in the stands, but it's really cool. And then I do obviously have American fans and Asian ones as well, and then from all over. So they're a little bit different from one another.
Right. No, for sure. And I would agree with that too. I'd say North American fans.
All of the hate, all of the bad comments, all of the the trash talk or whatever it is that you would see online that are from your trolls are definitely from over on this side of the world and not over here.
Because they use it as an outlet to, like, if they got issues, they got to project that. It's women. It's something we talk about all the time. It's 100% true.
Yeah, I love it over there, though. Everybody there is so incredibly nice, respectful, you know, and I couldn't ask for a better audience or group of people to fight in front of. It's been fantastic.
We
Colby,
talked about
what's
it.
the- go ahead. I'm just curious. You don't have to say. You don't have to say. We'll keep it arbitrary. You understand and know the pay scale of the UFC athletes, yes, to an extent.
To an extent, yeah.
How is the pay scale of ONE FC?
If I'm going to be honest, I can't really compare, say I know, because I don't really know I don't know anybody's pay from ONE, and they obviously don't disclose it. You could look up, you know, over here, you could just Google and see what people make and see. Yeah. And then if I'm going to be straightforward with you, I've only had 3 pro fights. So I'm not somebody that's had a ton of pro fights who can say, I want to make this much or this much. Yeah. So I'm the wrong person to ask.
I just hear it's very good. It's very good. But you don't fight as much sometimes, I guess. ONE doesn't fight as much, I guess. So I don't know how you.
Well, things have changed now because of the pandemic too, right? Like they couldn't. There was only a certain amount of events they could do. It wasn't as different. And you're right, Jim. Because look at Eddie Alvarez, right? He could have re-signed with the UFC. He could have gone back to Bellator. He went to ONE because I know it was very lucrative. Same thing with Demetrius Johnson. I know there was a trade, but you get what I'm saying. Like there's certain and Bibby, who I talk to all the time, he's very happy, and I think again that's one of the reasons he went over there.
Right. I mean, good is by whose definition? I mean, what's good to me may not be good to you, and then it just depends on, I feel like, who you are, and you know, it's different for everybody. But if I wasn't in the UFC, you hear about what people make over there. I actually don't know what anybody makes over at ONE. I don't really know a lot of people personally that fight for ONE. I don't really know a lot of fighters.
No worries. You gave us a good enough answer. Jim was just trying to pry there, and he's trying to get something. Trying to throw a curveball.
That makes me want to know, though. So now I'm going to try to go find out. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, like, we were talking there about the last time we spoke, which was before you fought for LFA, and I know obviously that debut didn't go according to plan. How did you deal with that? Because I know there's a lot of pressure with your last name and just your accolades and everything, and then, you know, losing that fight. And we talked about the trolls and everything. I'm sure there was people who went after you there. How did you deal with that and move forward in your career? Because I know it's tough, because that was the first professional fight you had. Yeah,
I mean, that was tough because I feel like automatically, without even no matter how many amateur fights I had, going into my pro debut, there was a lot of pressure just because of Sage being my brother, and then, you know, Raymond being my husband, and Sage was actually there commentating my fight next to Pat Miletich. So that was
I forgot about that
too. And I asked him, like, hey, what was that like for you? He's like, I don't even want to think about it. I don't remember. Like, tried to block it out. It was it obviously didn't go the way that I wanted, for sure. I feel like that had to happen for a certain reason, though, and I'm glad it happened then, my first fight, because I would have hated to be. I'll use Ronda as an example because she's the first one that popped in my head. Think about how she was undefeated and went her entire career and was the biggest female star ever. And then when she had her first loss, it was so global, and she felt like she wanted to kill herself. And that's what she said. Like, gosh, man, with how I felt after that loss and how much of a competitor I am, like, I'm not going to lie. I thought about for a second, like, hey, do I really want this? That wasn't even on a global stage. That was like, you know, nowhere near UFC, ONE Championship, Bellator, any kind of level. But that needed to happen because it did make me have to really question, like, how bad do I want it? And then I've had a lot of time to focus on training, getting better. And there was a lot of stuff that went into that, you know, things have happened between changing weights, you know, last minute and all the kind of stuff, and be moving up and things like that things have happened. But it definitely helped my mindset. It made me become kind of angry, wanting to.
Is that even possible in your family? You guys are so polite, by the way. So, I don't know. I'm just curious.
That's funny. I get more angry than Sage does. Sage is very nice. It takes a lot to get him mad, but when he's mad, he's mad.
Really? I just assume he never get, like, I know it's all in our human nature, you'd have to get mad, but like Sage is like the nicest guy. Like, he might as well be Canadian. I mean, that's sort of what we're known for.
Oh, easy, people. James, easy.
It's true. Jim just doesn't want to accept people like him more. But anyways, it's interesting, and I think that's good you were able to sort of overcome that and sort of go through it. Why only the one fight with LFA? Did they just have you for one fight, or were you a free agent? Like, what sort of happened beyond that? I was curious how you ended ended up going from that to going to one championship.
Yeah, it was just a one fight thing. It was going to be something that was just going to go one after the other if I wanted. It wasn't anything. I didn't sign any kind of thing with them that was for a certain amount of time or for a certain fight deal. It was just one fight. So I am very blessed that from that time Sage, obviously got into one, and then with that connection and stuff, I mean, I'm fully aware that I signed with them at 0-1. I mean, I am obviously very grateful, and I know that I don't take that lightly, and I know that's because of my relationship with my brother. But it's something that I can't change, and I didn't like it when it happened, and I can't do anything about it, and I've learned from it. So
that's all you can do.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to get Jim a question in here in 1 second, but I do just want to ask one more thing. Do you ever get the sense, and the reason I bring this up is because I'll use Mackenzie Dern as an example. She fought for LFA, and I kind of feel like the UFC kind of had their eye on her, and they were just kind of like, moving her along in LFA. I think she had one fight in Invicta, but it seemed like the plan was always for Mackenzie to end up in the UFC. Did you ever feel that way when you made your LFA debut? Were there ever any conversations about you maybe? I know you only had the one fight, but just because of your last name, was that something that was ever even talked about or no?
It was never talked about. It
I was just curious, yeah.
Because I had gone from my last amateur fight a couple years from that fight to my debut. So it was kind of something where I was like, oh yeah, from that time I had gone back to school and gotten my degree. So I didn't know if I wanted to go to school or not. And then I had, moved out here to California, switched camps, and it was, in the back of my mind, that was something that I hoped that they would do with me. Because they did it with her. Holly Holm is another example that went through LFA. So I was hoping they would do it with me, but that was never anything that was discussed or talked about. I thought maybe if I had a few fights, because UFC can take women. I think Paige was like 3-0. They take women with a lot lower records than the guys. So I was hoping that, that was never discussed.
Well, Paige was supposed to be on The Ultimate Fighter. I don't know if you remember that, but then she was too young, so they couldn't get her on the show. So she ended up going a different route and getting there, which was interesting. And the other example I'll use is Jim's favorite fighter on the show, Macy Barber, was an LFA fighter, and I think same sort of thing where they got she fought a few times for them, then went to Contender Series, and then they got her in there. But anyways, enough with my conspiracy theories. But Jim, I think you had something to say.
No, I don't got. No, I'm good. I got nothing.
Good. You got nothing. Yeah. So it's obviously been very interesting to sort of see, like, I imagine for you the idea is just, activity, just continue to build up and sort of progress in your career at this point. Do you sort of have an ideal, like, is that something you've talked to one about how active you can be this year? Or is it just sort of,
I want 3 times this year. They're already talking to me about July, and I told them yes. So hopefully I'll get something in July, maybe another one by the end of the year. Want to kind of make up for lost time, I've had a couple really long breaks in between my first fight and second fight, and before that, so I don't want to take too much time off. But I also know that it's just kind of right now for me experience, because I'm in a position to where one is just now starting to build their flyweight division. So there's not a champ, there's not any kind of rankings, so it's just kind of signing new women, getting the experience, and just kind of, seeing where my career goes from there.
Do you think, Colbey, do you think that, now that one is now on TNT, and that essentially being a North American channel station where a lot of United States people watch it, do you think ultimately one will make its way into the US?
I do. That was their goal, and that that was their goal, and that's what something that they talked about with us a couple years ago. And when Sage is signing, that's obviously, one is the biggest global mixed martial arts organization in the world, but we don't look at it like that in the US. We think UFC. UFC is not the only organization that fighters want to be. And I feel like, Chatri he's just an incredible human being. Like, he's phenomenal, and he's a businessman, and he's very intelligent. And, coming to the U.S. market is definitely something that I know that he wants to do. And as a competitor, you want to come over here and be like, hey, look, our fighters over here can hang with or are better than other organizations. We want to show you.
It's fantastic for the sport, right?
Yeah, big time.
Right.
If you get a one championships into the United States, now you have the UFC, you have ONE FC, you have Bellator that puts on show. You're starting to create something that is, in essence, really, really good for the athlete.
You're exactly right.
And with TNT, you know, I mean, that's a big station here. I mean,
Yeah.
I had never watched one until
Really?
they went to TNT. I mean, obviously I'd known about it and all that kind of stuff.
Because Jim barely knows how to operate his computer. He's a little bit
that's
older.
true.
So
I mean,
that's
that
why.
could be one of the biggest reasons. But that's all right. That's neither here nor there. But
Yeah.
now being on TNT, you know, I'd be curious to see what the viewership is. I think probably pretty good.
Yeah,
it's done well. Yeah.
The only thing I will say, being a fighter over there, fighting over there, real time to be, I think it started at like 5:30 in the evening on a Wednesday. Is you have to get up so dang early and fight at like 8 in over there. And I was the first fight of the whole night, so I'm leaving for the arena by like 6:30 in the morning, and then you're already having to be adjusted to their time change of like 15 hours. So that was a little bit of a hurdle. You have to like really try to make sure that you were set with the time, but that's pretty much it.
We're still in this pandemic, obviously. I know Sage, your brother, I believe, got COVID-19. How is he dealing with that? Because I know he got it pretty badly from what I was hearing.
Yeah, man, it's crazy because before he got it, I was kind of looking at how people were getting COVID, and I was like, oh man, I'm healthy. Like, even if I get it, I'll be okay. And Sage is a very healthy person, an athlete, and very, very in tune with his body. So when he first got it, he was sick for about, you know, a good 2-3 weeks just straight. And then as he was on that tail end, he ended up developing a really bad blood clot on the side of his quad. And then it was like, it was pretty big. You could feel it. It was something that, you know, the doctors were kind of worried about. Developed that blood clot. So he hasn't trained for a month. It finally went away, put him on some blood thinners. He's fine. So once that happened, that was about 4 weeks of a span. He gets his fight with Shinya. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to jump back into training. And because he was already training, got COVID, had to take a break. I'm going to get back into training. I'm going to, you know, get ready for this fight. So he's training again. He's been training for a couple of weeks, but he could, is an athlete that's that in tune with their body. He's like, man, something doesn't feel right. And his lungs, his cardio is bad. His lower back was just killing him, and he was in so much pain. And keep in mind, me and Raymond are up staying with him at his house in Sacramento. We can just see like, dude, you're getting tired all the time, middle of the day, falling asleep. You're in a lot of pain. Like, something's not right. And so he went and got checked, full-blown blood panels, everything. It turned out that his kidney levels were so low that he was borderline on the cusp to the point where he could have kidney failure on both kidneys.
Wow.
He's full-blown anemic now. So that's something he's also having to battle. And so they were like, okay, you need to stop training. We need to get your levels back to normal. And we need to figure out what's going on. So he's not training now for several weeks, trying to get his levels back to normal. And in that time span, he also developed strep throat. So he's sitting around not doing anything, developed strep throat. And when that goes away, now currently dealing with staph infection on his glute. So he's not even doing anything, and his immune system is just like one after another. So he's seeing some specialists. From what he told me earlier today, he's going to get some blood work back next week, and they'll be able to tell him how his levels are at now. But it's frustrating because he's super healthy. And
I was going to say, has he ever even had a drink? Like, he seems like a pretty straight edge type of guy. So, you know, that it just goes to show it can get anyone, right?
That's what's scary is, you know, there's a couple other guys at Alpha Male that got really, really sick too. I know that Cody got a blood clot. There's a couple other fighters that got the clot too. And you just, like, physically you can look at him and be like, but you look okay. And it's like, you know, but it's just goes to show, like, no matter how much you take care of your body and stuff, like, man, that affects everybody differently. And that was really scary to see. So I don't know. He'll get the word from his doctors next week on an update and see how he's doing. And then hopefully he'll be good. He says he feels better, but, you know, we'll know for sure next week.
Wow, that's crazy. Sorry to hear that, and send my best. Obviously, I mean, that's it sucks that anyone has to deal with that. It's crazy to think.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. By the way, Jim, I'm signed. So I haven't got my vaccine yet, but I did sign up on a list where they're going to tell me a date when I can get my vaccine. So we're slow in Canada, Colby. If you don't know, we're way behind the ball when it comes to doing the vaccines. Like,
I hear the restrictions are pretty bad up there too.
They are. Yeah, no one can get in. So yeah, I haven't been to the U.S. since the end of 2019. So I'm hoping to
that's
go back.
Good. That's good, James.
Jim's just upset I'm going to beat him at golf. That's what he's worried about. So that's really what this comes down to. No, but I'm hoping, obviously, when this stuff, you know, goes on, like, you know, obviously with the restrictions restrictions. Hopefully things will open up a little bit.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, for
we'll
sure.
see what happens. It's no joke. What's it like? I don't know if you got to actually train with him specifically, but TJ Dillashaw, I know he's supposed to fight this weekend, had that unfortunate cut, but what's it gonna like work with him? Because he's in incredible shape, and I know, like, you see the photos of all of you, even Raymond yourself. You guys are just beating sweat when you're doing those conditioning workouts. What's it like getting to work with him?
Man, TJ's an animal. Him and then Juan together. I know we talked about Juan a little bit earlier. They're like this, man. They are freaking workhorses. TJ's in the best shape I've ever seen him in. It's unfortunate he got his eye cut, but when he does come back, I think he's going to do amazing, and he's going to come back with like a vengeance. So, I mean, to train alongside him and Juan and athletes like that, I mean, it's pretty amazing to see them, especially together, work together. So, can't say enough good things about them both.
The other thing I was going to mention as well, you talked about it earlier, the negativity and stuff. How do you deal with negativity on social media, especially training with a guy like TJ who's seen it all, right? Everyone's, saying this and that. How do you go about that in your own life, just with, dealing with people, I'm sure, DMing you and saying ridiculous things?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a female, so naturally I'm a little bit more emotional than guys. So I'm not going to lie. If I said that it didn't bother me, that would just be not truthful. But I am learning to block it out more and more, because Raymond was actually telling me earlier today that the more you get, the more it means you're doing something right.
Yeah.
So Paige and Raymond are both very, very good at blocking out what all those negative people say. It's just they're jealous. I mean, can't really do anything about it. It's part of social media, and it's part of being in the spotlight, so to speak, of fighting in front of everybody.
You're doing something right, regardless if it's a troll or if it's a good comment. You're doing something right when someone is talking about you.
Yeah, I like that. You're right, Jim.
This is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Aspen goes through those same things. Because I coach Aspen and Maureen Renault and Andrea Lee, and they, I mean, some of the stuff that I see that comes through, I'm like, oh my God! But they're just like, look, they're talking about me. I just gained another, 5,000 followers or whatever.
And you know what? It's like, whether they like you or don't like you, even if they don't like you, they're still going to tune in to watch you fight. Yep. Whether they want to watch you lose or if they want to watch you win, they still want to tune in. So that's what matters.
It's insane.
And I can't believe the people that will go after Aspen. All she does is post like these spectacular photos of her like on a mountain with like her dogs and stuff. It's like it's about as wholesome as it gets on social media.
It doesn't matter. Like
I know it's true. It just shows you no one's immune, right? So
you're like, what the hell does that even come from?
You have to be immune. Yeah, you have to develop that thick skin. It's hard.
Yeah. No, it's nuts. How's it being married to a fellow combat sports athlete? Do you find it's easier in some ways because when you're cutting weight and going through all this, you're kind of you know what to expect as opposed to just a civilian like myself?
Yeah, it's fantastic because we do everything together. We run a business together. We train together. Everything we do is together, and it's awesome to be able to have a partner that not only understands what you do but does it with you. So this particular fight that I had was unique because we were both in a camp together. He only fought like 12 days before me. So we were both in a camp together, and it was the coolest experience. One of my favorite things, though, versus when I'm in a fight or when he's in a fight is, man, if I'm in a fight and I'm having a diet and I'm having to watch me eat super careful, he gets to go eat whatever he wants. It's so hard to make 2 dinners, or he's ordering food from whoever, but it's like now I have that extra push to, he's got to be clean and eat clean with me too. So it's like almost an added like motivation and reassurance. But then the training aspect too. It's like we have a karate school where we can come at any hour of the day and train. And I always have a partner with me that can help. And that was actually super beneficial, even like with COVID, when everything was shut down for that first initial few months and we were like stuck together. It's like, well, what can we do? Okay, we can train and you can drill together. You always have that partner. So it's really unique relationship, and I wouldn't have it any other way because he does make me better as an athlete, and I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, no, it must be really, like you said, very beneficial. I got to know, you mentioned, food. Are there any vices when it comes to food? Is there any particular items that you like having that you can't have during camp?
Chick-fil-A, 100%. Okay. Chick-fil-A, that's my thing.
That's good stuff.
I love it. It's so great. Yeah, that would be it for me. His is In-N-Out.
Also very good.
Yeah.
In-N-Out is pretty good. Yeah. we don't have that in Canada, but every time I'm in Vegas or anywhere, I always stop.
You got to get it. Yep, when you're here.
Got to have it. Does Sage have any vices? Because he eats so healthy. It's it doesn't seem like he sort of is the guy to binge it all.
He's so clean. His is sushi. And
okay, gotcha. That's his cheat meal.
That's not even. That's not. What is that? That's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not even that bad, but his is sushi, and he would say that 1,000 times over.
For sure. I think we got about 1 minute left here with you, Colbey. Jim, anything else for Colbey before we send her off here to enjoy your dinner? I'm sure.
No, just hopefully, at some point Colbey can come up and train with Aspen. She's got a big fight coming up.
Yeah, that'd be great. I've heard great things about her, and she seems so sweet on social media. So I'd love to hear her.
We'd have to figure out who's nicer, because both of you guys are kind of playing up that role really well. Of
she doesn't
being very
talk much, Colbey. She doesn't talk much. It'll just be like,
no, just this is all you have to do, and this is what I do in my interviews with her. Just talk about hiking and all that stuff, and she'll open right up. She's all.
We have another girl. Sammy Kinchin, she was on the USA Olympic boxing team. She's here right now too.
Awesome.
Boxing and stuff like that. So yeah,
Very
you're
cool.
always welcome. It's close to Alpha Male. So
yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm in Orange County right now, back at home. I'm actually at my karate school. We got to get on the floor in just a little bit, but yeah, next time I get into camp and I'm back up in Sacramento or that kind of area, I'll be sure to let you know.
Yeah, awesome.
Colbey, before we go, anything you want to plug? Anything at all? Any social media sponsors? Anything like that? We'll give you the last word here.
No, nothing. My Instagram, Colbey Northcutt. Other than that, I mean, you guys are awesome. I had fun talking to you. It was a great conversation. So I appreciate you having me.
No problem. Thank you for joining us. There we go. That is Colbey Northcutt joining us here today on the Victory Loves Company show. Really happy to have her as well. And Amanda, if you're back there, there we go. There we go. We got it. That's producer Amanda on top of things.
Looks
that
like
was
there's
awesome.
A lot of questions. Is there a lot of questions, James?
From the chat, you know what? I didn't even notice it in there. Just a few from Armando and someone telling me not to get a vaccine. That's about it. So I think we're okay. So. Yeah, no, I listen. I want to get mine just so I can travel. I mean, say what you want about the vaccine, but whatever. It's that's what I'm looking at.
It's to each his own, James. That's the beauty, right?
Are you not going to get yours? I was curious.
No, I will not get it. I work with too many. I work with too many virologists and epidemiologists who are like, look, it's not necessary. But but I understand. Like that's why you have the choice, right? Like you have the choice. If you want it, great. If you don't, great.
Yeah. No, I hear
what it is.
That makes sense. We got a little bit of time here before we go. Actually, if we do have any questions in the chat, I suppose we could answer those, but not seeing any right now. We talked about the fight on the weekend. What do you think of this? I was curious to get your thoughts on this whole, main event that they put together at the last minute for the UFC card this weekend. It's going to be Marina Rodriguez and Michelle Waterson at 125. They must be giving Michelle some good money because her fighting at flyweight, she could be an atomweight, Jim. What do you think?
Yeah, usually fun fact is those that fight on the main event usually get about roughly about an extra 30,000 for the main event. So I would imagine she's getting at least that, her and Marina both.
Yeah.
The thing is I think Michelle will. Here's why I think Michelle will win. And I was talking to Brett Okamoto on ESPN because I was doing the Coach's Corner with ESPN the other day, and my thing is there's a glaring hole in Marina's game, and it's off her back, and Michelle's such a good scrambler that I think it might take Michelle 10 times to get her down, but all it's going to take is that one time. And I think Michelle is savvy enough to get around Marina's punches because Marina pushes her punches a lot and they're pretty easy to see. But I think if Marina uses her footwork and her lower half well and uses kind of that backside to kind of keep Michelle guessing. But I think the weight will actually benefit Marina because it's hard for Marina to make 115. So I think you're going to see a much healthier Marina in this fight. Nevertheless, I still think Michelle's going to win. I'm going with the crafty veteran, but I think it's a cool fight though.
Yeah, no, I do too. I'm taking Marina for that exact reason you mentioned. She's going to be bigger, stronger. I think at 125, she'll look even better. She's not cutting as much weight. Like she looked great in that last fight against Amanda Hebus. And I know it's Amanda Hebus and I know Waterson's fought a lot better fighters, but still, I think she can get it done. But this is something we can, circle back to next week. I got to ask you about this Joshua Fabia thing with Diego Sanchez. Have you been paying attention to this? Now,
I've seen some of it. I've seen some of it recently. I went back to try to watch it. Like I saw the thing with him in the media room with Felder,
which is all about him, man. It's like, how does Diego not see that?
Well, obviously Diego's has some problems too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know that it's weird. It's kind of, I don't like to comment on it because you know what I mean. I'm only seeing what they show, but on the surface, what I'm seeing, it sure does look awful weird. And he comes off awful weird. You know, I mean, maybe there's, you know, there's always two sides to what's going on, but boy, what I've seen so far.
Did you hear though? He recorded the phone call between it was Joshua and the lawyer for the UFC.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's illegal. I don't think you can do that. Yeah, Hunter Campbell. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope. That's for sure. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know what his intentions are. I mean, maybe his intentions are to try to figure out how to sue the UFC or whatever. But
well, that's what it sounded like. Why are you asking for all these medical records? And he's like, I just want to know these things. And it's like, well, you're not a doctor, so why do you need it? Because again, he's going to try and promote his school of self-awareness thing of probably natural healing or something. I don't know. But anyways, I feel bad because do you want me to tell you the sequence of events which happened to me? I interviewed Diego. Great interview. He kind of talked a lot, but that's Diego, right? So we did the interview. Then I find out that he's out of the fight. And I was like, what? Like, I just interviewed this guy. He seemed fine. And then, you know, I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's COVID, whatever. And then you find out it's all this other stuff behind the scenes. So it makes sense. But it just, to me, it's sad because Diego's the last remaining member of the Ultimate Fighter from the original season that was still in the UFC. And he should have got this fight and the send off. And it just sucks that it was hijacked like this.
Yeah, it's odd. I don't know how to. It's odd.
Yeah, there's no other way to put that as well. What else are they going to talk about? Yeah, we're going to wrap things up here shortly. They moved the Nate Diaz and Leon Edwards fight. Poor Leon Edwards. He's had 4 canceled fights. Now he's got this fight with Diaz. They bumped it. I think that's going to help that pay-per-view, though, the 263
Yeah, because they bumped it to June 12th, right? Arizona? Yeah. It'll definitely help.
Yeah.
It'll definitely help. And it's good for the gate, right?
It will. I think that card needed it a bit because you got Adesanya and Vettori in the main event, which, don't get me wrong, good fight, probably good buildup, but we've already seen Adesanya beat him. I don't think Marvin's going to do anything different to beat Adesanya. The co-main event is Figueroa and Moreno, which is a great fight, but just not very, like, the casual fan probably doesn't know who Davidson.
Well, they're two guys that even though Davidson's the champ, people don't really, they're not gravitated to him, right? Like, so it's
right. Yeah. So that's where the pay-per-view gets a little bit thin. Now you add an Nate Diaz on there, and obviously, you know, you get the casual fans coming in. So
yeah. That definitely brings in the potheads.
What do you think about Cowboy stepping into that fight instead of Diego? Well, like we said, it was an issue with the UFC basically firing Diego. So Cowboy's fighting Alex Morono.
Morono.
Yeah, and you know Alex quite well because Max fought him, right?
Yeah, a split decision loss to Alex. It was a very tough fight. I think Alex beats him up.
So do I. I don't know if the odds are out yet, but I remember the second I saw that fight, I was like, I don't think that's a good fight for Cowboy because Alex is tricky. I don't think he looked good in the last fight against Pettis, and I think part of that, and this is something we talked about, was,
but he did early though.
He did early. Alex, he didn't have his corner though. Remember, this is something we talked about where his corner got sick because it was the same thing with Jeff Neal, which, interesting enough, Jeff Neal's on this card too. It looks like he will have his coach Saif Saud, but I think that played a role in him losing that fight as well. So
yeah, I don't think it's going to be a good night for. If it goes any length of time, I think it's going to be bad for Donald. But
I agree. We'll take a couple more questions here if people have them. What do you got coming up this week? Anything interesting? Any fights or?
No, nothing this week. Next week I'll be at UFC 262 for Andrea. Mm-hmm. So I fly out to Houston.
Big fight against Antonina Shevchenko. That'll be good.
Yes, sir. So that and that's what I got. Nothing this weekend, Mother's Day. So
is it this Sunday?
Yeah, it's this Sunday.
Oh,
May 10th, yeah.
Okay, I gotta get some work to do. I kind of forgot about that. So there we go. I gotta figure some stuff out. Okay, well, that's good to know. Now I'm kind of panicking. No, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. We're good.
You got plenty of time, dude.
No, I do. I'm organized though. I like to be on ahead of the game when it comes to that stuff. It doesn't look like we have any questions here. What do we got? We got something here in the chat. Oh, Amanda's talking about my channel. My channel's not new. So if people are wondering, I have another YouTube. Oh, yeah, I might as well talk about the whole YouTube situation I had a couple weeks ago, just so people get an understanding of what I've been dealing with. So what was it? The night of UFC 261, I wake up the next morning, had a great stream that night. I got like 13,000 viewers, people tuning in, everything's good. Get an email from YouTube saying I've got a community strike. And I don't even know what that is. So I look it up and they're like, apparently I had a link on one of my videos that was missing like a number or something. So it was like a dead link. So if you click on the link, it doesn't go anywhere. YouTube flagged that as being against their community guidelines because they thought it was a link that was going to like content against their policy, like violent stuff or like,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. So, or porn or whatever, you know what I mean? Like they think it's a deceptive
Yeah,
link and it wasn't. And so I'm like, okay, like no big deal. And I filed the appeal, no big deal. Then I get another strike and now I can't stream or post content on my channel. So I'm like freaking out here because I got to do stuff the next day. I got to post content. Like what the heck's going on here? So I threw another appeal out there. I kind of put it on social media being like, does anyone know how to deal with this? Because like I've never had this happen before. I wake up, what is it? Tuesday, they take the strike away. I still have the warning on my channel. They haven't told me. Anyways, long story short is what's happening is YouTube has this automated system where they sort of decide where like they try and flag stuff that's illegal, but it's not a good system because obviously they're hurting innocent people like me who didn't do anything wrong. Right. So I'm basically at the mercy of like a computer making a decision that could just take down my channel. So long story short is I've always had a backup YouTube channel where I put sort of my prospect interviews on there. So now I'm trying to build that up because if this happens again, I don't want to be in another position where I have a channel that's I can't make any money off of. So I hit 500 subscribers. I'm trying to get to 1,000, but yeah, that's the goal. I'm trying to build up my other channel now. So
nice.
That's my long-winded answer. But big tech, man, they're never on your side, right? They never have good customer service.
No,
they're against you. No, so just goes to show. Even an innocent guy like me who plays by the rules, wears a nice golf shirt.
However, you're not innocent, James.
How am I not innocent? Let's hear it.
It's just because it's you and you're from Canada.
There you go. It's because you don't like my prime minister, but you wouldn't be alone on that. There's a lot of people who don't like Trudeau.
Yeah, right, that is true. Yeah, I got hit up by a fighter in Montreal today, a female.
Female? Okay, what's her name?
Yeah, I can't remember her name, but anyway, we were just talking about fighting, and she
wants to train with you?
She was very upset about your prime minister there.
Well, all of them, like Rory McDonald, he's down at Sanford now. Like a lot of them are leaving because it's only in certain parts. Like here in BC, you can still train, but in Montreal, you can't because the cases are worse. Anyways, not a political podcast, not trying to make it that whatsoever. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This is going to be our new time slot, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So we really want to thank all of you for joining us here today. We'll be back next week at this time, a little bit easier to watch, right? Promote it a little bit better as well too. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. You can follow Jim on Twitter. I'm going to find it right now because I always forget it every single week because I tweet it out.
I always forget
it's J West Gold 15. What's the 15 for, by the way? Is that what your number?
That was my baseball number.
I got it right. There you go. I had no idea. So there you go.
Yeah.
And you can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Lynch on Sports. Appreciate the support, everyone. We'll be back next week. Enjoy the fights this weekend. We'll be back same time, same channel. Thanks so much for watching. Shout out to Amanda, by the way, who does an amazing job behind the scenes, making it all happen. And thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys next week.